Did you know that on Malzahar you can actually R-flash in order to do this hilarious super long range suppress? This is genuinely useful as well, since you're vulnerable to other enemies while casting your R, so it can be useful to reposition over a wall with your flash and continue channeling from a safer location where you can't be interrupted. On Rise, you can teleport yourself while inside of a charging Rift Herald in order to completely catch the enemy off guard. Place the Rift Herald, then once it's finished summoning, press R and quickly hop inside. You'll be teleported along with the Rift Herald while mid-charge, allowing you to very quickly snipe a turret or rotate between lanes with your Rise ult. And finally on Syndra, there's something really cool you can do with Scuttle Crab. When the Void-infused Scuttle Crab dies, it explodes in a big cloud of vision that reveals nearby enemies. So if you just pick up the low health Scuttle Crab and throw it into the enemy jungle, you'll gain vision of that area instead, which essentially allows you to use Scuttle Crab as a mobile UAV. These are just the first few of a ton of hidden mechanics you can do on your favourite champions that we'll look at in today's video, all of which have been taught by an army of one tricks and YouTube commenters. Now, in order to keep you around until after the intro and to feed my endless desire to keep the YouTube video retention stats as high as possible, let's leave you on a cliffhanger. Nexus towers respawn a couple minutes after they die. Azir can raise a tower in place of a destroyed one. So what happens if Azir raises a destroyed Nexus tower, and then the tower respawns? Does it delay the tower's respawn? Does it override Azir's tower, or do we end up with a super double tower for a little while? I'll give you the answer to that right after the intro.
My name's Rogue and I played League of Legends professionally for 7 years. Now I'm a full-time content creator and coach for all ranks iron through to Challenger. So if you want more information of what a coaching session with me will look like, you can find more information by following the link in the video description below.
And while you're in the description, you'll also find the link to my Patreon where I post all of the recordings of my best coaching sessions in full, with almost 1,000 hours of content currently available, all sorted by role and rank, including sessions where I coach for professional level teams. You can get a glimpse of what pro level league looks like from the inside. That's why whatever you're looking for, you'll easily be able to find something that's going to help you improve, no matter your rank. Alright, so what happens if the Nexus tower respawns on top of Azir's tower? Sadly, we don't get a super tower. Azir's tower just gets destroyed, and he doesn't look too happy about it either. Poor guy, so don't waste your passive like this guy did. Moving on, want to see the most stylish gank of all time? Most people know that on Echo you can recall, buy items and ulti back to lane, but why not just take the time to throw out a Q first? That way, a few seconds later after you get back, your Q will fly in from the other side of the map and help out a little bit in the gank. This actually gives you 2 usages of your Q in a fight. Pretty cool. Now, most people already knew on Echo that ulti back to lane trick, but did you know you can do it on Zed as well? If you use your R on an enemy and then recall with empowered recall, you'll have enough time to heal up a little bit, buy items, and then reactivate your R in order to teleport back to the fight, allowing you to essentially sacrifice your ult in exchange for an item buy. Sadly, this isn't possible with his W though, since there's actually a cap on the reactivation range of his W. Zyra has a hidden passive I learned a few years ago that isn't listed anywhere in the game and can only be found on the lore wiki. Any additional plants that attack the opponent beyond the first plant deal half damage. So having 2 plants attack an enemy doesn't cause them to take double the damage. They only take 50% more. Therefore, the best way to play Zyra in lane is to poke with a single plant anytime you see you get 2 seeds with your W, always saving the second seed to be used as a backup in case of emergency, since it's not really worth spawning 2 plants at the same time unless absolutely necessary. Riot really does love their hidden passives, don't they? All in favour of removing hidden passives from the game, go sign my petition against hidden passives in the comment below. Warwick gains bonus movement speed when moving towards low health enemies, but sometimes you can abuse the game's pathing mechanics to gain move speed even when you aren't moving towards them. Right now, the low health enemy is standing in mid lane. If I click right here to run back to top lane, I don't get any bonus movement speed. But if I click over here on the other side of this giant wall, I will now gain the bonus movement speed because I'm technically moving towards them, but because of the wall, I'm still pathing back to lane. This allows me to essentially run back to lane a little bit faster by abusing that auto-pathing mechanic. Okay, this next tip for Ahri is kind of insane, just look at it. Now normally there's a lockout period on your ultimate that prevents you from constantly reactivating it between casts, but you can override it and perform a double dash. Whenever Ahri scores a takedown on an enemy champion, she gains another charge of her ultimate. If she's mid-dash at the moment where this happens, this overrides the lockout and allows her to recast her ulti straight away, which can be very easy to predict if you can just purposely use your R at the moment just before one of your spells or a teammate finishes off a low health enemy that you've hit. Akali's W allows her to put down a shroud of smoke that she can sit inside to become invisible. Attacking breaks the stealth though, but after a short delay she will regain her invisibility if she doesn't attack for a bit. The weird thing here is that the time it takes for her to regain her invisibility scales with the game time. The later you are into the game, the more quickly she regains her stealth inside of the shroud. To my knowledge, this is the only ability in the game to have a scaling that correlates to game duration. Super strange, so if you know of any others, let me know in the comments, because I'm interested. Now let's do a special section on Singed for that guy in the comments of every one of my videos who just goes and lets people know if I've talked about Singed or not. Shout out to that guy, this time I have. On Singe, you can use your W to break spell shields. Sometimes. The way it works is that for some reason you have to throw your W behind the enemy in order to break the shield. If you throw it in front of them, it doesn't break the shield even if it hits, for some strange reason. Another incredibly important mechanic you need to know before you get your Singed license is the flip auto attack. Flip someone with your E, then immediately initiate an attack move command, and you'll manage to get an auto attack off on the opponent you just yeeted before they fly away. And finally, Hex Gates on Singed are your best friend, since if you take one with your Q poison turned on, it will leave a trail of poison in the path, which leads to awesome moments specifically around neutral objectives like this one. If you played League for a while, you might know these next two. On Anivia, when you die, you become an egg. But you can actually start your teleport just before you turn into an egg, and your TP will continue to channel. This can often be used to teleport to safety when faced with a situation that would usually mean certain death that you can't escape from otherwise. And on Ashe, there's actually an angle where you can throw your hawk shot that gains vision of all 6 enemy jungle camps. All you have to do is push into the enemy tower and then hug the absolute edge of the map and throw your hawk shot into the opposite side jungle quadrant. With good aim, it'll fly past every single camp, giving you guaranteed info on exactly where their jungler is in their clear. On Twisted Fate, the way his W works is actually really interesting. When you activate it, it cycles between the 3 colors of cards that he can choose from at a very consistent rate. But did you know that the colors of cards are always cycling in the background even when it's not active? So if you just count through the colors in your head at a consistent pace, you will always know exactly what card you're going to pull the moment you activate your W without even seeing it. Red, yellow, blue. 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 Red. Oh, that's cool. Here's a goofy looking wave management tip you can do on Syndra to guarantee that you get priority. Not only does this kill off an enemy minion who now has to fight 6v1, but it also causes your wave to form battle lines and makes the waves that are closer to your team's tower. All 3 of these things all but guarantee a slow push. Maybe it's not the best to do this on wave 1 though, since W.Syndra is probably bad for early trades, but it can be easily used in later levels of laning phase after you crash a wave into the tower in order to retake priority, and also to get the wave to start the slow push forming closer to your side of the lane rather than walking into the opponent's tower. By this point, we have a bit of a tradition with these type of videos. It's time for the rapid fire round. Renekton can actually gain Fury by picking up Honey Fruit in the river. Each honey fruit he picks up will give him 5 Fury for a little boost before he goes back to lane. Akshan can farm 2 lanes at once inside of the enemy's base by hooking onto this wall and just spinning around in circles forever. Viego can use a W into R combo in order to massively extend the range of his ultimate. This works because his ult considers that he is casting the spell from the endpoint of the W dash instead of the beginning where he actually is. On Zac, you cannot auto attack while using your ultimate, you can only use W. But if you use Hextech Protobelt towards somebody and spam right click on top of them, you can. So a high level Zac combo you can do is to Q onto a target, then press R, and use this Protobelt auto attack trick onto a second enemy. This will allow you to slap the 2 enemies together since you can now auto attack, pulling them both in range to get hit by your R. Aurora's ultimate allows her to teleport around by walking into its walls, but there's a very obvious visual effect that enemies can see coming. The Aurora main tech then is to therefore use W into the ultimate's wall. If you do this, you'll be invisible as you teleport, and so your opponent will get no indication that you've teleported to be right beside them, and from there, you can surprise them with a combo from stealth. Allow his tentacles slap at a very slow rate, making them super easy to dodge. But if she's used her ultimate recently, it speeds up the rate at which this slap lands. So, if you have an enemy who is marked by your E and is running away, it may be worth ulting the floor in order to make it harder for them to dodge your tentacle slap, even if you don't hit them with the R. On Master Yi, you can tell if an enemy is nearby by using your Q on a jungle camp. If no one is around, the jungle camp will stand still and wait for you to reappear before attacking you. But if an enemy is nearby, the camp will instead begin running towards that enemy, giving you an early warning system against invades. Nico can spawn a clone of herself that lasts a few seconds before disappearing. She can control what the clone does as well. For example, she can make it do this super fun helicopter trick. But the real tech is that you can instruct your clone to recall, which can be done by starting your own recall once it's summoned. The clone you've summoned will not expire until after the recall has finished, meaning it lasts for several seconds longer than it usually would if you do this recall trick, making it even more useful as a temporary ward or a scouting tool. On Lucian, attacks with his passive reduce the cooldown of his E, but this cooldown reduction activates when the attack connects with its target. So you can begin a double shot attack, then cast E before it connects and it will still reduce the cooldown of his E dash. Doing this allows him to dash, do a full combo, and then get his dash back up instantly at the end of it. And on Twitch, you can recall while invisible. Just activate stealth with Q, then quickly press recall before it goes off. If you do so correctly, you can fully finish off your recall while in stealth, and it's really easy to do. Champions that can create terrain, like Trundle can with his pillar, can actually save their teammates from displacement abilities like Blitzcrank's grab. Simply place the spawning wall on top of your teammate while they're mid-pull, and it'll just break them out of it. Syndra can actually use an enemy's pets against them. By picking up a pet like Annie's bear or Ivan's golem thing, you can pick it up and throw it outside of its maximum leash range, which causes it to instantly snap back to its master, which then inflicts the damage from that Syndra W onto them. Are you ready to have your mind blown? Okay, you know how you can use an ability into a wall and it'll push the ability to the other side of the wall, a mechanic that is commonly used to extend the range of some dash abilities? Well, check this one out. By placing a wall on Anivia in the right place, you can extend the range of a blast plant massively in order to gain extra distance and clear huge walls otherwise not possible. There are actually several places around the map as well where this can all be done, and most of them are pretty easy to pull off. Except for this one. Oh my god, this one was a nightmare. It took me over 10 attempts just to get this footage. I was struggling, but I got it in the end. Have you ever noticed that sometimes on Bard your Q just doesn't always go as far? Well, that's because of some secret source you can use in order to extend its range. When Bard's Q hits an enemy, it goes on to travel a fixed amount of distance in search of a wall or a target. The secret here is that champion hitboxes are circular, so if you hit an enemy front on, the distance your Q will travel afterwards is shorter compared to if you hit an enemy on the side. Clipping an enemy on the side will make your Q hit them later on, and thus the fixed distance it will then travel afterwards is further, which makes it possible to get a little bit more distance and connect with a wall. Next up, on Akali, using your E makes you dash backwards. But what if you don't want to dash backwards? Well, there's a way to override it. If you E flash, there's a specific timing where your flash cancels the dash backwards effect of your E, meaning you can E flash and then stay in melee range for follow-up damage if that's what you want to do. Now, let's do a bit of a PSA for all the Ornn players out there who are just sick of seeing their teammates upgrade the wrong items. I feel so bad for you Ornn players, it must happen all the time. Okay, so you probably already know that when Ornn upgrades your items, it's not random. He will always upgrade the first item closest to slot 1 in your inventory that he can, meaning the arrangement of items in your inventory is actually important in deciding which one is upgraded. But which one do you want him to upgrade? Well, that's a good question. Good news, we have Ornn One Trick Twitter to thank because they've saved the day. Here is a table that explains it all. Essentially, every upgrade in the game gives you 1,000 gold worth of stats no matter what the item is, but depending on what that item is, that 1,000 gold is split up amongst several stats throughout the item. So for example, if you upgrade your death cap, you get 1,000 gold worth of AP because that's the only stat it gives. Whilst if you upgrade Overlord's Bloodmail, you gain 500 gold of health and 500 gold worth of attack damage. Then all the way at the bottom, if you upgrade something like Unending Despair, you gain 250 gold worth of health, armor, magic resist, and cooldown reduction. So the same 1,000 gold worth of stats, it's just being spread out more. Sometimes this could be what you want, but generally it's not. Obviously, if you're building a death cap, for example, you're trying to get the maximum amount of AP as possible, so you always put death cap in slot 1 to get only AP. In a different example though, let's say you're building Overlord's Bloodmail. The passive from this item scales with your health, and so you want a ton of health. So you shouldn't upgrade it because it will give health and attack damage. You should instead upgrade your Warmog, since it will give you 1000 gold worth of health, which is what you mainly want to build. It really all depends on what you want, but now you have the info to make a better choice as to what to put in slot 1 when it comes time to upgrade. Now moving on, here's a few silly ones to close things out. On Smolder, it can be useful to use your ultimate backwards. Yep, just like Thresher's Flay, the ability begins its cast from behind where you're standing. So if an enemy is close to you, it can be good just to use your ult backwards as it hits them more quickly. And finally, just to make that Singed guy really happy with this video, there's a really fun interaction that turns Singed into Sonic. Well, there's a lot of them, but this one specifically. When he touches a champion, Singed gains bonus movement speed. This movement speed bonus can stack up to 25 times and refreshes, adding a stack every time you touch another champion. Fiddlesticks can place a clone of himself in place of a trinket ward. You may see where I'm going with this now. If you have your friendly Fiddlesticks place all of his trinket wards in one place, creating a giant pile of clones of himself, and then our Singed player runs over it, every single one he touches will give him more movement speed, overtaking the speed of light, threatening to break a hole in the fabric of space and time. Okay, not that dramatic, but he runs really fast. That'll give you something fun to try out now in your next set of normal games, or I guess your ranked games if you're brave enough. Anyway. Now that's all that I've got for you in this one, guys. If there are more champion tips and tricks that you know about that I haven't included, go put them in the description below and share with us all. And if there's enough good ones, I might make another video like this one. Thanks for watching. Otherwise, have a great one, everyone.